Like, they can't do this without me? What does that say about me? Delegation is one of those words that gets thrown around the entrepreneurship space so often that it almost lost its meaning by now. Everyone will tell you that you need to delegate, and most people will tell you to delegate the things that you are not good at or that you don't like doing. Some people will give you a list of tasks to hand off, and then you try, and it doesn't quite work, and you're not sure why. I want to offer you a complete different way of thinking about delegation today. Not as a task offloading exercise, not as a time management tool, but as a 3-level framework that fundamentally changes the way your team operates and how much capacity you actually get back. Because here's what I have found working with founders at the multi-6 and 7-figure stage. Most of them are delegating the wrong level. They think they're delegating. They are actually assigning. And those two things produce very different results. Before I get into the 3 levels, I want to walk you through why most delegation attempts fall apart. Because if you try to delegate, had it go back sideways, and then quietly taking the work back, you are not alone. We have all done that. It's almost certainly not because you hired the wrong person or because your team is not capable. And it's very likely not a briefing problem. When delegation fails, the most common culprit is this. The founder handed off a task without transferring the context, the ownership, or the standards. Those are very, very important things and also very different things. So maybe you told someone what to do, but not why it matters, what good looks like, and what decisions they're allowed to make along the way, and what success actually means. The team member does a thing, the founder looks at the output and is not what she wanted and what she had in her head. And then you correct it. Maybe you correct it more than once. And eventually you decide it's faster and less frustrating to just do it yourself, and you quietly take it back. And now you have one more data point confirming that your belief that delegation doesn't really work for you is actually true. But here's what actually happened. The delegation failed because it was incomplete, not because it was impossible. Let's talk about 3 levels of delegation because this is a framework that changes everything. Level 1 is task delegation. Level 2 is responsibility delegation. And level 3 is outcome delegation. And the higher you go on that ladder, the more capacity you actually get back. Task delegation is where most founders live. This is the can you do this specific thing version of delegation? Write this email, schedule this call, pull this report, post this content. It's a transfer of a defined specific action with a clear deliverable. Task delegation is not bad. It is necessary and it often the right starting point for anybody that's new delegating or for a new member of your team. But it has a ceiling, right? When the delegation is at the task level, you're still making all the decisions yourself. You're deciding what tasks need to happen, when they need to happen, in what order, and what they should look like when you're done. And your team is executing your decisions, but not making decisions themselves. The practical result is that you are still the bottleneck of everything, just with someone else doing the physical work. Your team can't move until you tell them to move. Nothing happens without your initiation. And as your business grows and the volume of tasks grows, this model breaks down because you cannot initiate fast enough to keep up. Task delegation is a starting point. It is not the destination that you want. Level 2 is where things get a little bit more interesting. Responsibility delegation means that you're handing someone the ownership of a function, not just a task. Not just write this email, but you own all client communication during the onboarding phase. Not pull this report, but you're responsible for tracking and reporting on our weekly metrics. When you delegate at the responsibility level, your team member knows how to make those decisions within their function, right? They're not waiting for you to tell them what to do next. They have a lane, they know what they own, and they're expected to manage certain things. This requires more upfront work for you, and you have to define that lane very clearly, and that's okay. You have to set your standards. You have to make sure that the person understands not just what they're doing, but why it matters, what decisions are theirs to make. That investment is real. The return is also real because now you have someone who is managing a function rather than completing a checklist. The biggest shift at this level is the move from that task giver to a standard setter. Your job is no longer to assign work. Your job is to make sure that that person in the role has everything that they need to own their function and that you have a way to see how is it going without being in the middle of it. Level 3 is the level that most founders have never experienced, and this is the one that unlocks the real CEO leadership. Outcome delegation means that you are handing someone ownership of a result, not a function, not a task, an actual business outcome. Revenue from a specific offer, maybe client retention over a quarter of the year, the quality of a client experience from onboarding all the way to offboarding, a launch execution on a time and on a budget. When you delegate the outcome level, you are not defining the task or even necessarily the process. You're defining what success looks like, and you're trusting your team member to figure it out how to get there. They're not executing your plan. They are building and executing their own plan inside of a framework that you have defined. This requires a very different kind of team member. Someone with judgment, with initiative, and the ability to think at a strategic level within their domain, right? It also requires a very different kind of founder. One who's comfortable not knowing exactly how something is getting done, as long as it gets done at the right standards. This is where most of the resilience lives, because delegating at the outcome level requires you to let go of controlling. And for high standard founders, this is often the hardest thing in the world. You're not just winging it, you are leading it. But let's be honest, being the CEO and the everything else can get lonely, messy, and exhausting. That's why I created the Accidental CEO Collective, a free Facebook community for creative entrepreneurs who never plan to be the boss. But damn it, here we are. Inside, I go live every week to share the real stuff. Strategies that don't require a business degree, behind the scenes struggles, because you're not the only one, and wins that we actually celebrate, even the tiny ones. If you're a scrappy, smart, sometimes slightly burnout founder who is ready to lead with more clarity and less chaos, this is your room. We're building a business that works for us, not one that runs us into the ground. Come join us. Let's grow, mess up, pivot, and succeed together. Just search the Accidental CEO Collective on Facebook and join our group today. I want to spend a few minutes here on something that doesn't always get enough airtime in the delegation conversation, and that's the identity piece. Most founders who struggle to delegate at the level 2 or 3 are not struggling because of a system problem. They're struggling because they have built their sense of value and worth inside the business around being the most capable person in the room, around the fact that they can do everything, around the proof that when things need to get done, they get done because of them. And delegation at this point, where someone else is getting the results, producing the real quality, and running real functions without needing the founder, can trigger something that feels surprisingly uncomfortable. Even when it's doing well, that's probably what you wanted to begin with. Even when the outcome is exactly what the founder wanted. I've had clients tell me that having a team member completely nail something that felt strange, almost threatening. Like, they can't do this without me? What does that say about me? I want to be direct with you about this. That feeling is worth paying attention to. Not because it means something is wrong with you, but because it signals that you are doing the work at the right level. The discomfort of not being needed for something you used to control is actually the feeling of growth. It means you're stepping into a different role, and that transition is supposed to feel like something. Your worth as a leader is not measured by what you personally produce. You have to remember that. It's measured by what you make possible for people around you to do. This is a completely different definition of excellence, and it's one that really scales and allows you to grow. Okay, let's get into the practical mechanics, because all of this philosophy is great, but without a way to actually implement it, it's just philosophy. So here's the delegation brief structure that I use with clients, and I want you to have it as well. Every delegation, whether it's a task, a responsibility, or an outcome, should cover 5 very important things. The first is the what and the why. What is being delegated and why does it matter to the business? Not just, here's what I need you to do, but why this matters and what it connects to. Context changes the quality of the execution every single time. When people understand why they're doing something and how does that connect to the big vision of the company, it makes a huge difference. Second is the definition of success. What does good actually look like? Do not assume that your team member has your vision of done in their head, right? It's a completely different vision. You have to take it out of your head and give it to them very clearly. The most specific you can be here, the less you need to correct later. The third thing is decision authority. What decision is this person allowed to make without coming back to you? Being explicit about this is one of the highest leverage things you can do, because it's the thing that prevents that constant question loop that most founders get stuck in. If your team knows what they can decide and what they need to come to you for, you stop being the default answer for everything. Fourth is resource and the context. What do they need to be successful with that task? What is the information, the tool, the access, the relationship, the budget? Make sure they actually have it before you hand off the work. And fifth is the checkpoints. How and when will you know how things are going? This is not micromanagement. This is building a structure for communication that keeps things on track without requiring you to be constantly checking on it. So a clear checkpoint schedule is actually what gives both of you a lot more freedom. If you have those 5 things for every significant delegation, the quality of your team output will improve significantly, and the amount of time you spend correcting and explaining and taking things back will drop. And you'll start to actually feel the capacity gains the good delegation is supposed to give you. Here's your move for this week. So I want you to pick one thing that you've been doing yourself that could belong to somebody else. Just one. Write a proper delegation brief using those 5 elements that we just went over. Don't skip the decision authority piece. That is one of the most important things that people leave out and is often one that makes the biggest difference. Hand it off and then actually leave it alone long enough for the person to do it. I know that can be hard, but just give it a try. If you're listening to this and thinking, I know I need to do this, but I honestly don't even know where to start with my specific situation, or maybe you've tried delegation before and it keeps falling apart and you want some help with the structure underneath it, that is what I do. I'm here to help you and to support you. We can get on a free call, 30 minutes, and I can help you, point you in the right direction. Again, that's exactly the kind of work that I do. And here's what I want you to leave this episode with. Delegation is not about getting things off your plate so you can fill your plate with different things. Delegation is about building a business that actually has genuine capacity beyond you, that can grow and produce and deliver and serve without you being the engine behind everything. The 3 levels are real, and most founders are stuck at level 1. And the ones who build the level 2 and 3 are the ones that actually get to lead. You've built this thing. It's time to lead it. All right, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next week. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nata Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.